Welcome in, everybody, to a off-season outlook. Second baseman. We have done catchers. We have done first base. Next will be shortstops. Right now, today, it is going to be a second base outlook. Has one of the biggest names out there at the free agency period in Marcus Semien. We'll talk about what could happen to Marcus Semien. We're going to take a look at teams that need a second baseman. We're going to take a look at some of the players that are available. Now, there might be a little bit of confusion. You might think that some players are out there. There's a lot of, you've got Spot Track, you've got MLB, you've got MLB trade rumors. You've got so many different places with second basemen that they've got shortstops. We're going to focus on the shortstops tomorrow, okay? Javi Baez is not going to be in this video. I know he was playing second for the Mets. He's a shortstop. He'll only play second if he goes back to the Mets. So we're going to talk about Javi Baez tomorrow. So we're going to dive into the second baseman. We're going to talk about who's available. We're going to talk about who needs what. And there are some good second basemen, not great, but players that can certainly upgrade a team. So let's dive into that. And again, we are live. It is the Monday morning live stream. So I appreciate everybody that is here with me live. Comment in the chat. Let me know what you think, who you think should be on the move at the second base spot. And comment below if you're watching the replay. Comment in the comment section with who you want your team to sign at second if your team has the need. So let's dive into this very first, right off the bat. Let's talk about the second basemen that are available. And this is the list. It's Marcus Semien. It's Cesar Hernandez, Leury Garcia, Donovan Solano, Josh Harrison, Jed Lowry, Jose Peraza, Matt Carpenter, D. Gordon, Marwin Gonzalez, and then a lot of other players: Kipnis, Garcia, Barreto, Ruiz, Sogard, Valleca, Owens, and Mercer. It is a long list. There's a lot of names there. Certain players that are maybe, they'll give you one tool, maybe two tools. Not a lot of five-tool guys here, but Marcus Semien certainly headlining the class. Let's take a look at the teams that need a second baseman. Now, there are teams that could certainly make upgrades, but these are the teams that I feel need a second baseman. The Mets, I understand you got McNeil. I think McNeil probably plays in the outfield next year. I also understand that there's a Robinson Cano cloud that's out there. But I think they might try to get out of that contract, or remember, the Mets are going to have the DH. Maybe Cano's a DH. Ultimately, I think the Mets need a second baseman. San Francisco, in my opinion, needs a second baseman. The White Sox need a second baseman. White Sox traded away Nick Madrigal, brought back Cesar Hernandez, and then they didn't pick up Cesar Hernandez's option. Interesting move there. The Orioles need everything. The Oakland A's could use a second baseman. The Blue Jays, depending on where you put Kevin Biggio, depending on what they do at third, the Blue Jays, you could say, need a second baseman. And the Arizona Diamondbacks could use a second baseman. Blue Jays have that hole that Marcus Semien is leaving. Does Biggio go back over to second? Do they try to make Biggio work at third? What happens? Is Biggio included in a trade? There's so many things going on there. And yes, Marcus Semien getting a gold glove. Gold gloves were awarded out last night. I believe it was 5 Cardinals won the gold glove, so that was quite a night for the Cardinals. Let's take a look at players. And we're going to start with the big name. And we are going to get into some predictions in just a minute. But let's start with Marcus Semien. He is the biggest name available at the second base spot. He could slide back to shortstop with the new team. And with that in mind, we'll probably talk about Semien when we do the shortstop outlook. But one of the best seasons a second baseman has ever had. 45 home runs, 102 RBI, 15 out of 16 on the steal count. Just an amazing season. If it wasn't for Ohtani and Vladdy, Marcus Semien's your MVP. He'll finish, I think, third place in that voting, right ahead of Sal Perez. So you have a wonderful, wonderful season for Marcus Semien. He's going to turn 31. He's going to be looking for a lot of money to take him into his 30s. Marcus Semien is one of our spotlight players. Another one of our spotlight players is Josh Harrison. Listen, Josh Harrison, in my opinion, I thought his career was pretty much over after Pittsburgh. He went to Detroit, Didn't do much there. You see in 2019 a 175 average. Then kind of bounced back in 2020 with the Nats. Did well. Started 21 with the Nats. Had an 800 OPS with Washington. Was traded to Oakland at the deadline. This is a kind of guy, and I think I've said it in other videos, that Harrison is somebody that you absolutely love if he's on your team. He's a passionate player. He's a try-hard player. He gives you everything he's got. And he drives you absolutely crazy if he's on the other team. He's the kind of guy that comes to bat and you're like, oh, we got him. And then next thing you know, he's on second base and he's scoring from second. So Josh Harrison is a player. Whoever gets Josh Harrison is getting a baseball player. So we like Harrison. He's another one of our spotlight players. Got to spotlight Cesar Hernandez. Again, we talk about how he was traded from the Indians to the White Sox, and in that trade, Nick Madrigal was included, and then the White Sox, after giving up what it looked like was their future second baseman for Cesar Hernandez is not picked up. That option is not picked up. Now, Hernandez did not do well with the White Sox, but Hernandez has always been an up and down streaky player. Really started out nicely with Cleveland. I think it was 18 home runs with the Indians. Only hit 3 after being picked up. But he's not a power guy. You look for his glove. You hope he gives you a little bit of speed. You like his batting average somewhere around that 280 to 290 range. He just did not do that with the White Sox. So the White Sox don't pick him up. So he's out there for somebody. And I think that whoever picks him up will get a decent ball player, a good second baseman. A 15 to 20 homer guy at second base is nothing to balk at. He's a good baseball player. Certainly has not reached the heights that maybe it looked like his career was projected to be when he first came up with Philly. But Cesar Hernandez is somebody we watch. Cesar Hernandez is a very intriguing free agent. Another free agent, the last player that we're going to highlight here is Donovan Solano. I really like Donovan Solano. I think that there is a lot of upside with Solano. What he did in 3 years with San Francisco, not a full-time guy, right? I mean, I guess he got the most full-time run he ever had in 2020 with the Giants. Played 54 out of 60 games and hit 326 and 828 OPS. San Francisco, in my opinion, probably doesn't want to let him go. Doesn't have a lot of power. But you like what he does. He's got versatility. He can play second. He can play first. He can play third. He can play. I think they've even slotted him in the outfield. So you got Solano's versatility. He can hit. He was a Silver Slugger in 2020. You like what Donovan Solano gives you. He's an 800 OPS guy. At least that's what he turned into in San Francisco. Now again, he might not be your primary second baseman. You may sign him and somebody else, or you may sign Solano and figure that he's going to be your super versatile guy. But Donovan Solano intrigues me greatly, and for that, I have him as one of the better second basemen that are going to be available in this free agent period. So we talk about all those second basemen that are available. We highlight Semien and Hernandez and Solano and Harrison as really the main second baseman. I think maybe Matt Carpenter is a big name up there at this point, though, Mark. Matt Carpenter is on the downside of his career. You're not going to get a whole lot out of Matt Carpenter anymore, in my opinion. So let's go back to the needs, or the teams that need a second baseman, and we're going to make some predictions here. For the Mets, for the Giants, for the Sox, Orioles, A's, Blue Jays, Diamondbacks, we're going to make a sure-to-go-wrong prediction, but we're going to give it a try. What would be the fun if we didn't at least do that? Let's start with Donovan Solano. I had him as one of my more intriguing players. Let's start with Donovan Solano. I have Solano going to the White Sox. I think that there's a fit there. I think the White Sox might make another move as well. I could also see them maybe bringing back, Garcia. Maybe not. But I think that Solano could be a piece there with the White Sox, whether he gets the everyday gig. If he gets the everyday gig, I still think he's a 300 hitter. I think the White Sox give it a shot. They have a glaring need at second base, and Solano could do it. I don't think they have a ton of money to throw at second base is another reason why I think Solano could go to the White Sox. Next up, let's talk about Hernandez. Where could Cesar Hernandez go? not a sexy move, but I think Arizona ends up being the play. I think that they throw some money at him. I think these other teams that are trying to win, that they might overlook him, and they don't want to give him the money. They try to put the money in other positions and other areas of need. So I think Hernandez ends up with the Diamondbacks, goes to where a team might pay him more. Not going to win, but he'll probably make the most money over in Arizona. Chelsea, good to see you. Hi, welcome in. Let's talk about Josh Harrison, one of our other featured players. I think Harrison makes sense for the Mets. I talked about it in my trade video that maybe Whit Merrifield goes to the Mets. If that doesn't happen, I think they'll be in the market for a veteran presence. They made that perfectly clear last year with all of the veterans that they brought in for depth purposes, that they could slide into different positions. They did that with VR. They did that with Pilar. They did that with a handful of signings last year. I think they continue that trend this year. And Josh Harrison, I think, makes sense for the Mets because you can also slide him into the outfield. He can play middle infield for you. So I like Harrison as second base. I could still see that happening even if the Mets do bring back Javi Baez. I could still see Harrison going to the Mets. But certainly, if they are not able to make a trade, if they do not bring back Baez, Harrison is a slam dunk to me for the Mets. Let's talk about a former Met. Was one of the pickups this last year is Jose Peraza. I'm going to put him on the Oakland A's. We are filling the needs. I'm going to go with Jose Peraza to Oakland. I do not think the A's will pay to bring Marcus Semien back. He's going to be way too much money. So Peraza goes to Oakland, in my opinion. He's an Oakland guy. He is if you look at his numbers, his on-base percentage lives about 100 points higher than his batting average, so he gets on base. That's what Oakland likes. Not a big name, not a big hitter, but he fits. He is where it goes. 2-0 legend. Otto Lopez is nearly ready for the Jays. Never be afraid to use your system. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And for the Blue Jays, we'll get to the Blue Jays pick right now. My feeling for Toronto, I think Semien gets to be too pricey. I think if Semien goes to $30 million a year, the Blue Jays are out. I think they only bring Semien back if Semien gives them a hometown discount. So I think, Moose Bandit, good to see you in. I think that the Blue Jays make a move that they have routinely done year in and year out. I think, and what I mean by that is it's the Eric Sogard, it's the Breivik, it's the Freddie Galvis, it's all of that. It's Marwin Gonzalez. I think the Blue Jays go and bring in Marwin Gonzalez. They were linked to Marwin Gonzalez last year in the offseason, and Gonzalez ended up going to the Twins. I think they had conversations last year. They can pick those conversations up. The Blue Jays are an attractive destination for a super utility player. Marwin Gonzalez has the playoff experience, so I think Marwin Gonzalez is your super utility guy, can play second base, can play pretty much anywhere. So I will go with Gonzalez. Chelsea, you got Biggio. Biggio is an interesting piece because we don't quite frankly know if Biggio is going to be on the team. Biggio could get traded. I personally would love to see Kevin Biggio back at second base, but I think that if the Blue Jays want to make a move and trade for a certain Cleveland third baseman, Biggio may have to be included in that deal. Let's see. 2-0 legend Correa has been offered 5 at 160 from the Astros, $32 million. But most likely, the word is that he's not going to accept that he wants to get closer to a 10-year deal. So we have 2 more teams that we need to place somebody. We're going to place Leury Garcia on the Giants. Any Giants fans watching this, you're probably hoping that's where I was going to put Marcus Semien. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to put Garcia on the Giants. Leury Garcia is a good second baseman. He's a steady player. He gives you some good at-bats. I like Garcia. It's not a big move. It fills a hole. They can move him around. So we're going to put Garcia over at second base. We have one more spot for a second baseman. Blue Jay fans, you remember him. I think we all love this guy. Eric Sogard. Eric Sogard is my pick to go to the Baltimore Orioles. They are going to be looking for veteran guys that can carry them through the season. They're going to be staring at another 100-loss year. They're going to be taking players that, listen, I don't want to call them bottom-of-the-barrel guys because I like Eric Sogard, but they're going to be taking guys that are being passed on by the winning teams, the win now teams. So give me Sogard as a guy that either becomes a glue guy. It just depends on what does Sogard want to be. Does he want to be a glue guy for a winning team, or does he want to have a chance to play every day? He would have a chance to play every day for the Baltimore Orioles. So give me Eric Sogard. So you're noticing somebody's missing, right? Somebody's missing from our needs. There's no Marcus Semien. If you've been watching the channel, if you've seen the video, my feeling on Marcus Semien, let me move some of these names out of here, guys. I think Marcus Semien ends up playing shortstop. So I'm going to have Marcus Semien with a handful of teams for shortstop. Oakland, but again, like I said, if it goes to $30 million, I don't see Semien going to Oakland. The Mets could certainly get involved. The Giants could get involved, but that $30 million price tag is going to be high for them. I think the Blue Jays are out if it gets to 30. If it can hold at that 22 to 23 range, maybe the Jays get involved there. I think the Twins are in a spot where I don't know if they have a need, but they're in a spot where are they doling out a 5-year contract, AAV $30 million? I don't think the Twins are in that spot because I think the Twins go into massive sell-off mode this offseason. Or not this offseason, but during the regular season. If they start out struggling, I think the Twins go into sell-off mode. So I don't think they end up making any big deals. So looking at the teams that have a need and the teams that are trying to make the next step, the teams that are going to be trying to make a step that is just the beginning of a 5 to 10 year run, what team on here makes the most sense? In my opinion, I know this is crazy, and you guys probably think I'm just going out of my mind, but the Marlins are going to land somebody. They don't have a lot of money on the payroll. They could make a Blue Jays-like jump. That 2020 Blue Jays team seemed to arrive a year early. I think the Marlins, with that pitching, the pieces they have in place within that lineup, a lot of people think I'm crazy for this, and you may be included in that. But I think that there is a chance that Marcus Semien ends up in Miami. Houston, Chelsea, that's a good one. That's another fair option. But I am just feeling, and it won't be at second base. Jazz is the second baseman for Miami. Marcus Semien for shortstop. Again, we're going to talk about Marcus Semien again tomorrow. But I think Marcus Semien goes and he gets a gig playing shortstop. John, my only thing about the Giants is the Giants have to spend so much money on pitching this offseason. They have, right now, Brandon Webb is going to have to play. Brandon Webb's going to have to pitch every day for the Giants. That's where the Giants are at. So they need to spend $75 million on pitching. The Giants do. So the Giants are going to have to be so focused on pitching. And that lineup, they got to bring Belt back. If they can work out a deal to get Solano back, all that stuff makes sense. The lineup is in good shape. Maybe they try to bring Bryant back. We'll see. But they need to spend so much money on pitching. So that's why I think the Giants are out. I think Miami could do it. Moose Bandit going back to Toronto. I think he goes back to Toronto if that money stays in that 20 to 25 million range. If it gets up to 30, big issues. I don't think the Blue Jays go to 30 million for 5 years for Marcus Semien. I would be surprised if they do that. I see a strong push from Seattle. No doubt about it. Very good call there, Steve. I think that Seattle is going to make a splash. I definitely see Seattle making a move. I think Seattle probably, I don't know why, but I see Seattle with Trevor Story. Maybe it's because it's where I went first. I thought that that just made too much sense, Story and Seattle. I just feel like, I don't know why, I'm just obsessed with Trevor Story in Seattle. I'd like to see the Jays go for Corey Seager. That's an interesting idea. I think Corey Seager will either, this is my opinion, I think Corey Seager ends up back in LA, or I think Corey Seager ends up in with the Yankees. Chelsea, you want to re-sign Robbie Ray? I think all Blue Jay fans do. And as a Jay fan, I'm with you. I would love to see them. I would rather them re-sign Robbie Ray. If I had to pick between Ray and Semien, I would rather have them bring Robbie Ray back. I want to go into a playoff series and I want to know that I've got 3 starters, look what happened to Houston. I want to know that I got 3 starters that I can depend on no matter what because they are just gamers. And Robbie Ray is one of those guys. Alek Manoah is one of those guys. Hyunjin Ryu, if he's on, is one of those guys. I want to know what I got. Tanya, what about the Cubs? The Cubs are going to be in an interesting spot. I think the Cubs, we talked about first base options for the Cubs on Friday. I think if we're talking about what the Cubs could do, I love that they basically snagged Wade Miley from the Reds for just got him, just picked him up, $10 million. That's all it is. But I think that the Cubs will bring in Brad Miller. Brad Miller, I think, also can play second base, but he could be a good first base option. You got Schweigel there too. So the Cubs are going to be interesting because I don't see him doing a whole lot. I think that they could trade Wilson Contreras this offseason. The Cubs are in an interesting position. They are a couple years away from entering back into that win mode. Story has expressed to play in Texas. He's from Arlington. So if he goes to the Rangers, that would be a surprise. But what about Houston? He could go to Houston. But if Houston isn't willing to pay Correa, then they're not going to be willing to pay Story. So that would be a waste of money, if you ask me, by the Rangers, and a foolish decision by Story. Story could go somewhere that is set up to win for 10 years. The Rangers are not. The Rangers' rotation, the Rangers are going to give up 8 runs a game with that rotation right now. That would be a big disappointment to see him go to Texas because he would basically just go to another team that's not going to win for the next 5 years, and then he'll have to get traded. I would hate to see that. I wish the Braves could keep everyone from the Title I fair. Yeah, they're not going to be able to do that. I really thought Duvall would opt in, take that $7 million, go for another run. But, because I don't know. I guess Duvall's looking at it like his value is about as high as it's going to get. He won the Gold Glove last night. He had a decent postseason. He was on fire with the Braves after they picked him up. So the "what have you done for me lately" Adam Duvall is about as high as it gets. But I don't know who's going to shell out for Adam Duvall. Hockey Kid, offense is already loaded. I want Robbie back. Exactly. The offense is good. Really think Kershaw comes to Texas? I don't think so. I think Kershaw might stay in LA. He'd just be with the Angels. I think there's a very good chance that he ends up on the Angels. So we're talking about the second baseman. Let's do this. I do want to talk about I love you guys with the comments and the questions in the chat. I want to at least keep this first half hour because I know a lot of people when they watch this back at a certain point they just sort of if we get off topic. Potential trades for second base is an interesting position here. So let's think about some trades. I looked at it. The big name that really stands out as a potential trade, and I brought it up the other day, was Whit Merrifield. Would Kansas City, would they free Whit Merrifield? It just seems like, please, do the rest of baseball a favor. Put Whit Merrifield on a contending team. You've got Baltimore. We talked about all the teams that have a need. We can pull the need back up as we talk about a potential trade. Because really, looking at all the second basemen that are available, Kevin Biggio could be included in a trade if the Blue Jays need to make him a part of a deal for Jose Ramirez. So you can see Kevin Biggio as a player that could be traded. Whit Merrifield is the big name that could be traded. And again, we look at who needs a second baseman. Where's the fit if Whit Merrifield might get traded? Again, this could be a long shot. It is a long shot. But wouldn't be Baltimore. I don't think it would be the White Sox. I think Kansas City would pay attention to interdivision stuff. So you can't see it being the White Sox. San Francisco could make sense. The Mets make sense. Oakland makes sense. Toronto. So it's sort of those 4 teams on the left where you could see a Whit Merrifield deal. Reason I can see it not being Toronto is because Toronto might be trying to re-sign Semien, or they could be trying to trade for Jose Ramirez and just not able to get focused on a Whit Merrifield deal unless Kansas City comes to Toronto and says, we want to do this and we want these 3 guys. Oakland could do it, but you got to think about, when Whit becomes a free agent in a few years, paying him. Would they want to do that? Depends on what they would have to give up. In the Mets, So I feel like the Mets are the most likely destination to maybe land Whit Merrifield if they cannot bring Baez back. Some talk about Ketel Marte. I don't know if they're going to trade him. If they, I don't know if the Diamondbacks would trade Ketel Marte. Sometimes, and this is similar to Kansas City and Whit Merrifield, when your team is not great, it can be hard to trade your banner guys. And Whit Merrifield is the guy on the banner. Ketel Marte is the guy on the banner. There's not much to go see with the Orioles. Trey Mancini's the guy on the banner. And I know Cedric Mullins stepped up this year, but there's just some guys who are like, and Ketel Marte is so cheap. $8 million this year for Ketel Marte. $8 million is all Ketel Marte is going to cost the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then there are club options. 2023, a club option for $10 million. 2024, a club option for $12 million. So Ketel Marte is cheap. Arizona's not going to want to give that up because there's no way they can get that talent to dollar ratio back. And, who knows? Maybe they still have wild aspirations of competing. Maybe if they feel like the Dodgers can't re-sign anybody and then half the team gets hurt and the Padres do what they did again, Arizona's like, hey, maybe we can be there. They brought Torey Lovullo back. I feel like Torey Lovullo is the manager, is being underutilized there in Arizona. So, unfortunately, he's there. I actually think the Mets should try to steal Torey Lovullo, away from the Diamondbacks, similar to how the Padres stole the Athletics manager. I think the Mets should try to steal the Diamondbacks manager. So you have a situation, though, with Ketel Marte. I just don't see him getting traded because of that situation. It makes it a long shot, just like it makes the Whit Merrifield deal a long shot, because banner guy, and he's cheap. He's cheap. It would have to be an offer that you can't refuse. Here's the reason why Jose Ramirez becomes a little bit more likely to get traded. It's one less year. So here's the thing with Ketel Marte. 3 years for Marte. $8 million, $10 million, $12 million. That's great. And he's 28 years old, right? He is, this is going to be his age 28 season. Jose Ramirez, I'm going to pull it up again. I believe there's this year, they've got the option for Jose Ramirez, and then next year, and then he's free. So, whereas if you were trying to trade for Jose Ramirez last year, you were trading for 3 years of Jose Ramirez. Now, you're trading for the 2022 and the 2020. You're only getting 2 years of Jose Ramirez. $12 million this year, $14 million next year. So, you're not getting, so it makes it a little bit easier to give up Jose Ramirez. The Indians will look at it and say, we're not going to re-sign him at the end of 2023. Do we hold on to him for another year? Do we enter the season and he's traded at the trade deadline? Jose Ramirez is an interesting piece. The Indians have the Guardians. I don't know. What are we going to call them? What are you guys doing? Are you on the Guardians bandwagon yet? Are you calling them Guardians yet? Or are you still calling them Indians? I'm still calling them the Indians. That's going to be a hard habit to break. But Cleveland is going to have a decision. Do we trade him in the offseason if we get an offer that we just don't think we're going to be able to refuse or be better? Or do they wait until during the year and they trade him at the deadline if the season isn't going well? If the Indians are looking at themselves in the mirror, are we winning the World Series this year with Jose Ramirez? That's a long shot. But maybe they want to start the year and at least see that, figure that out. And so there's why Jose Ramirez could start to, that trade talk could get real. It's not 3 years of Ramirez anymore. It's 2. So that's what makes it a little bit easier. That's what makes it harder to trade Ketel Marte. Ketel Marte is sort of in that mode that Jose Ramirez was in last year. We're going to see Jose Ramirez trade talk. That's going to have, or not Jose Ramirez, Ketel Marte trade talk. It's just going to be so hard to do because it's 3 years. Now it's 2 years. The horrible name, Guardians. Right, I know. There's something about like Guardians of Traffic or something. I don't know. Quick little rant on the whole Cleveland name. You have so many state things, nicknames, all that. You could have gone that way. You're right there by a body of water. It could have been something to do with the water. It could have been something to honor the history of Cleveland baseball. They just missed such a miss. Guardians feel like a. The Guardians feel like it feels like a football team name. Like if the Washington football team decided, hey, we need a new team, we need a name, Guardians. The Washington Guardians for the NFL makes sense. Doesn't that just sound better? The Cleveland Guardians of traffic, I don't know. I mean, Guardians make sense in DC too because you've got a lot of military down in the DC area. It kind of, it's the capital of the country. If you're trying to find a Washington name that isn't, Nationals or Capitals or Generals or something like that, Guardians is a good way to do it. Good call, Jonathan. I love the idea of them just calling themselves the Cleveland Rocks. Why not? And then let Drew Carey be the mascot. Put Drew Carey's face on the hat. Busy collecting. Good morning. Welcome in, Busy. Raul, good to see you. Good to see you. And Jonathan, Michael, Steve again, Chelston, 2-0 legend. Thank you all who are here with me live, chatting in the chat room. Let's see. Do you see the Dodgers trading for J-Ram? I don't. 100% the Jays will pursue Ramirez. They already have a deal. It was close. I think it gets done. I think it gets done too. I don't see the Dodgers going for J-Ram because the Dodgers, they have Justin Turner locked in. They need to take care of the decisions with Kershaw, Scherzer, Seager, and Kenley Jansen. They got a lot to do. I don't think that they're going to get in on a Jose Ramirez trade. Cleveland, the Rivers, that's what I'm talking about, Dr. 8, the water. There's water there. Obviously, you can't call them the Cleveland Lakers, but, something. Don't break the habit. The Guardians is PC garbage. I went to Cleveland, and the bartender told me 80% of the city is against the name. Change it, and 20% don't watch baseball. That's the thing. I don't like it. I am doing well. It's a Monday. We had a busy weekend of baseball. I half thought about going live at one point last night just because you had the Gold Gloves that were awarded out last night. You had the arbitration, the qualifying offer deadline was last night. We had that. Dodgers have a bunch of free. Yeah, they have to make that decision. I can see Seager going to the Marlins. That could fit. That could definitely fit. I still feel like it goes. He either re-signs with LA, or I think the Yankees back up the truck and they sign him. I think the Yankees want to make a splash. It's hard for them to find splash options this offseason. I did my top 10 with the predictions, and Yankee fans were mad at me because I had none of the top 10 players going to the Yankees, which that's the situation they're in. Outside of Seager, Jonathan, I also feel the Phillies will get someone big. I think the Phillies are a great fit for Castellanos. I think the Phillies are a fit for Anthony Rizzo. Talked about Rizzo on Friday and talked about Castellanos in my Nick Castellanos video, which is up now. There's a shameless plug. Everybody, make sure to hit the like if you have not hit the like yet. We are back. We are live. It is Monday morning. I will give you a little teaser about how the rest of the week is going to go. I don't think we're going to be on Friday. I am moving, changing houses, and Friday's going to be a big packing day. So we're doing second base today. We've pretty much wrapped up second base at this point. So if you are here watching for second base, you'll have to rewind. So we did second base today. We've got shortstop tomorrow. Shortstop will be tomorrow. Then we will do third base on Thursday, and we will dive into the outfield on Thursday. And then the following week, we're going to have to dive in. And I'll be in a new location. We'll have to dive into the pitchers next week. So we're going to keep this going. If you have been here for the second base content and you are going to bail out, if you're catching the recording for this, make sure to subscribe and stay close to the channel. If you're here with me live, we're going to keep talking for a little while longer. Again, those are catching the replay. I'm going to chop this part off. This is just going to be the live portion from now on. So again, thank you for watching for second base. Make sure you check out first base and catcher. Those are already uploaded. And the rest of the week, we'll go through the rest of the fielding and hitting positions. Thanks for watching, everyone catching the replay.